It is a very nice day here on the homestead. We got some more cabbage that needs to be picked. Why don't we make some sauerkraut? Yeah. That'll make a nice batch of sauerkraut. A lot of people are apprehensive about making sauerkraut because they feel like it's risky to ferment foods, and I'm just here to tell you it really isn't. It's quite a safe process of preserving your harvest. You know, especially items like cabbage. You can make sauerkraut out of a variety of things. I've made sauerkraut from collard greens in the past. All those leaves that I gave them the other day are gone already, and they absolutely love them. If you just want to get any leaves that are poor, blemished, off of the cabbage, and you want it to be a nice clean head. There. That's a good looking head of cabbage. It's ready to get cut up. Folks, I had to pause and go make myself a cup of tea. Got this little cough going on. And I can't stand here and talk to y'all if I'm coughing the whole time. So I made myself some, it's a mullein, elderberry, and I believe there's some calendula flower in that tea. It's great for a cough. Put a little local honey in there, and it knocks the cough down pretty well. I don't know if my wife has that on the website yet. If it's not there right this minute, she'll be putting it up real soon. Mullein is great for anything that's going on with your chest, with like a wet cough. They say don't use mullein with a dry cough, but with a wet cough, it does a great job. Let's go through the items that we need. You got to have a cabbage, right? You can make sauerkraut out of a lot of different items. I have made it out of collard greens as well. And that has a very, very rich flavor. This is a half-gallon ball jar. I'm going to be putting garlic in this batch, salt, and this is kosher salt. Do not use any salt that has iodine in it because it's going to give you an off flavor. This is a fermenting lid. It has a little nipple that allows the gas to escape. And this is a fermentation weight that goes on top of the cabbage to keep it from floating up. And last but not least, you do need a scale of some sort because you need to measure the amount of cabbage you have, and so that you can figure out how much salt you need to put in that cabbage. We like about a 2% salt ratio, and we find that that ferments it very well. It gives it a really, really good flavor. You can get it too salty, and it's you can't do anything about it after it's too salty. So let's get that out of the way. Move that garlic. We will put our jar over here in the sink for now. The stem here, that could go to the recyclers. They've almost cleaned up all that cabbage already. I like to start right in the center at the stem and get it opened up. Right? Nice tight head of cabbage. And then we're going to cut the stem out. Recyclers. Let's set this to the side for now. Let's set that over there. I always like to save one of the outside leaves to go on top of your sauerkraut before you put your weight on. And now what we want to do is slice really, really thin slices. The thinner, the better, is what I say. It is not a difficult process to make sauerkraut, so don't get stressed out about it. And now our other half just has a little bit of dirt on it. We'll get rid of that. Again, cut the stem out. Give that to your chickens. Yeah, there's probably some cabbage here that I could use right here. But I don't get too stressed about getting every little inch. Now I'm going to slice up our garlic. I like garlic, so I'm going to put quite a bit in there. And I'm just slicing, I'm not chopping. So this next part's super, super important. We need to weigh our cabbage. Always weigh in grams. That's the way I like to do it. Maybe some people use kilograms. No, I don't know. I use grams. I already know that my bowl weighs 962 grams. So I will weigh this. That's 3,064 grams. 3,068 minus 962 is 2,106 grams of cabbage times 2%. That gives us 41 grams of salt that needs to go in here. Is that right? 41 grams? Let's check our math. 3,000 3068 minus 962, 2106 times 2%, 0.02. That's 42 grams of salt. So we are going to, got a little cup here. We'll zero that out. And let's measure our salt. That's 20, 21, 42, 43 grams of salt. So 43 grams of salt, it's about 2 tablespoons. And now this is probably the most critical part, besides weighing your cabbage and weighing your salt and being right on about your proportions. This next part is super, super important. We're going to sprinkle the salt on the cabbage. I like to do a little bit at a time. And then you've got to start working that salt into the cabbage. Why is this so important? Let's get rid of that. What we're doing is we're getting the salt into the cabbage so it can start releasing the water that's in it. And we are bruising the fibers of the cabbage so it can absorb the salt. You can use a stick or whatever it is that you might have, to beat on that cabbage. I just like to use my hands. Turn it over and massage that salt into the cabbage. Add a little more. And continue massaging. If you find that you have some big pieces like that, chop them up. You don't want really big pieces of cabbage in your kraut. Fermentation is the process of lactobacillus breaking down the fibers and preserving the cabbage or whatever vegetable you might be fermenting. I also like to make fermented carrots, dill pickles, and fermentation makes some of the absolute best dill pickles I've ever eaten. As a matter of fact, we plan on offering some of those fermented pickles this year. I'm going to make sure that salt gets worked all the way through the cabbage. Excuse me. You don't want it just right on top. All the way through. Every piece of cabbage should have salt touching it or brine touching it. You'll also notice that this pile is getting smaller and smaller the more you work the salt into it. And the remainder of our 42 grams of salt. I wanted to bring you in a little bit closer so that you can kind of see this process and how this is kind of broken down. the amount of moisture that has been released. There's a lot. You can see, you can literally squeeze the water out. And in the bottom, we have a pool of water. The next portion of this process is packing our sauerkraut, packing our cabbage into our vessel. I like using a canning funnel. It does a great job. You don't make as much of a mess. So put some in there, and then I'll either with a wooden spoon, or we have a stick we like to use, right? It's just a stick that's clean. You want to pack that down in there nice and tight. What we're doing with that stick is we're compressing the cabbage. We're pushing any air that might be in there out. Air can be troublesome in your fermentation. So we want to try and get rid of that anytime we can. That's why I like to add some cabbage and then pack it. Don't push so hard that you might break the glass. Just pack it in, make sure you got your air out. That's all. With that garlic in there, it smells amazing. I'd also like to encourage you at this point in time, taste it. Taste the salted cabbage. My grandmother, when we were growing up, she would always say salt to taste, right? And by tasting this salty cabbage, that'll give you an idea. That way, if you don't want to measure one day, and I'm never advocating not measuring, but it'll give you an idea of the saltiness of your sauerkraut. I said previously that I have had sauerkraut that was too salty, and it's really hard to eat that once it's too salty. One of my dear friends loves to put jalapeno peppers in his sauerkraut. That's his favorite recipe is garlic, jalapeno, and cabbage sauerkraut. So Terry, if you're listening, I'm talking about your sauerkraut, brother. You could eat this right now. Salted cabbage is just wonderful. You can use your hand also to pack that down in there. A lot of times right at the end you do need to. That way you can get everything pressed down where it needs to be and compressed. That's looking pretty good. I'm going to put just a little bit more. Not much. There we go. I think you can see that on the camera how full it is, right? So now I'm going to take that piece of a leaf, right, that we held on to, and I'm going to tuck that down in there, right on the top, right? Good. And now we will put our weight This is a fermenting weight. You could go on Amazon and order that like a 4-pack, right? And it normally comes with your fermenting lid. So drop that weight right there. Put that on with a ring, right? And put it in the closet. That's it for making sauerkraut. It's not a difficult process, and you don't have to be afraid of making fermented food. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend with us here at Pruitt Homestead. We appreciate you. God bless. Keep us in your prayers.